I never believed the stories about lighthouse keepers. Not before Blackwater Point. Before that job, lighthouses were just old buildings to me. Lonely places people took photographs of. A tower, a light, a stretch of ocean. Nothing more. Now I know better, because the lighthouse I maintained had rules. And every single one of those rules was written by a man who disappeared. A man nobody officially admits ever worked there. A man whose handwriting still appears in places it shouldn't. And if you're hearing this, then there's a chance I won't be around much longer either. It started 3 years ago, after my divorce, after the layoffs, after my life quietly collapsed around me. I took whatever work I could find. When a maritime authority posted an opening for a maintenance technician at Blackwater Lighthouse, I applied without hesitation. The pay was suspiciously good. The location was isolated. The contract required 6 months of residence on site. Most people avoided jobs like that. I needed one. The interview lasted less than 10 minutes. The administrator barely looked at my resume. He simply asked if I was comfortable being alone. I said yes. Then he asked something strange. Have you ever experienced memory loss? I laughed. He didn't. I told him no. He nodded and slid a folder across the desk. Inside was my employment contract, and beneath it was a single handwritten page. The paper looked decades old. Yellowed. Folded. The ink had faded in places. At the top someone had written, "Rules for Blackwater Lighthouse." The administrator quickly took it back. "That's not part of orientation." I asked what it was. He stared at the paper for several seconds, then shoved it into a drawer. Old maintenance notes. His voice sounded rehearsed, like he'd answered that question many times before. I should have pushed harder. Instead, I signed the contract. 3 days later, I arrived at Blackwater Point. The lighthouse stood alone on a jagged cliff overlooking miles of empty Atlantic Ocean. No nearby towns, no houses, no roads except the narrow maintenance path leading inland. The tower itself looked ancient. White paint peeling, windows dark, a giant eye staring out over endless water. The caretaker leaving before me was named Graham. At least that was what he introduced himself as. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept properly in months. While helping unload my supplies, he kept glancing toward the tower. Not casually, fearfully, as if he expected something to appear behind one of the windows. When I asked if everything was okay, he forced a smile. "Just remember this." His voice was shaking. "If you ever find a notebook in your room, don't read it after sunset." I laughed. He didn't. Then he climbed into his truck and drove away. I never saw him again. My first week passed normally. Maintenance inspections, generator checks, foghorn testing, light calibration, nothing unusual. The isolation bothered me at first, but eventually I adjusted. Days blended together. Ocean, wind, rain, silence. Then I found the notebook. It was sitting on my desk when I woke up. An old black journal, leather cover, no title, no name. I was certain it hadn't been there the night before. I opened it. The first page contained only a date, October 11th, 20 years earlier. The next page began with a sentence. If you're reading this, then I disappeared before I could finish explaining. The handwriting was uneven, hurried, desperate. I kept reading. My name is Daniel Mercer. I maintain Blackwater Lighthouse. If you're reading this, then you're the next one. That's impossible, I thought. I was the current maintenance technician. Not him. Maybe an old journal left behind. Maybe a prank. Then I reached the next page. It contained a list. A list of rules. Rule 1. Never look directly at the water when the foghorn sounds 3 times after midnight. Rule 2. If someone knocks on the lighthouse door after sunset, do not answer. There are no visitors. Rule 3. Count the stairs every morning. If there are more than 143, leave immediately. Rule 4. Never enter the storage room beneath the tower, especially if the door is already open. Rule 5. If you see another maintenance technician inside the lighthouse, do not speak to him. One of you isn't real. The list continued for pages, each rule stranger than the last. I almost laughed. Almost. But something about the writing bothered me. The desperation, the certainty. These weren't jokes. Whoever wrote them believed every word. That night, I locked the journal away. At 12:17 a.m., the foghorn sounded. Once, twice, 3 times. I sat upright in bed. The notebook instantly came back to mind. Never look directly at the water when the foghorn sounds 3 times after midnight. I roll my eyes, then walk to the window. The ocean was hidden beneath dense fog. Nothing unusual. Then movement. Far offshore. A silhouette. Standing on the water. Not floating. Standing. Human-shaped. Perfectly still. My stomach tightened. The figure seemed impossibly distant. Yet somehow I could see it clearly. Like distance didn't apply. I blinked. It was gone. The fog swallowed everything. I didn't sleep again that night. The next morning, I checked the journal. Another note had appeared. Fresh ink. The page hadn't been there before. You looked. I froze. The words continued. Most people do the first time. Don't do it again. I slammed the notebook shut. Nobody could have entered my room. Nobody. Yet the handwriting looked freshly written. That was the first time I considered leaving. But curiosity is dangerous, especially in places designed to feed it. Over the next several weeks, the rules kept proving themselves. Not all at once, just enough to keep me questioning reality. One morning, I counted the lighthouse stairs. 143. The next morning, 147. I counted 3 times. Same result. My hands were shaking by the end. I remembered the rule. Leave immediately. Instead, I convinced myself I'd miscounted. That night, I heard footsteps climbing the tower. Slow. Deliberate. I lived alone. The footsteps stopped outside my room, then continued upward, toward the lantern chamber. The next morning, there were wet footprints on every step, leading upward, none leading down. I checked the security cameras. At 2:13 a.m., someone climbed the staircase. The figure wore maintenance coveralls. The same uniform I wore. The same height. The same build. The same face. Mine. I watched myself ascend the tower, then vanish. The camera never recorded me coming back down. I deleted the footage, then recovered it, then deleted it again. Nothing made sense. The journal gained new pages, each one appearing overnight, each one written by Daniel, or whoever Daniel was. The entries became increasingly frantic. He described hearing voices inside the walls, people speaking from rooms that no longer existed. He described finding photographs of himself taken before he arrived at Blackwater. Photographs that shouldn't have existed. Then I found something worse. A picture hidden behind a cabinet. The image showed 5 maintenance technicians standing outside the lighthouse, all smiling, all wearing identical uniforms. On the back, someone had written, "We were all the first." I recognized one face. Mine. The photo was dated 17 years before I was born. That's when I stopped believing there was a rational explanation. The storage room opened 3 nights later. I know because I found the door unlocked. Rule 4. Never enter the storage room beneath the tower, especially if the door is already open. The darkness beyond the doorway seemed wrong. Not dark, deep, like a hole cut into reality. I should have walked away. Instead, I grabbed a flashlight and stepped inside. The room stretched far beyond the lighthouse foundation. Impossible distances, concrete corridors, rusted doors, miles of underground space. The beam illuminated walls covered in writing. Thousands of messages. Every surface, every inch. The handwriting matched Daniel's. Some messages were years apart. Others looked fresh. Don't follow the voices. There is no ocean below. The light is not for ships. We keep it fed. One sentence appeared repeatedly, hundreds of times. He came back wearing my face. A noise echoed from somewhere ahead. Footsteps. I turned. A man stood at the far end of the corridor. Maintenance coveralls. Flashlight. My face. Again. He smiled. Then all the lights went out. I ran. I don't remember reaching my room. I don't remember locking the door. The next morning, the storage room no longer existed. The wall was solid concrete. No doorway. No corridor. Nothing. Only a single note taped to the wall. Good. You finally saw it. The handwriting was fresh. The ink still wet. Weeks passed. Then months. Reality became unreliable. The cameras recorded events that never happened. My memories contradicted physical evidence. Food vanished. Returned. Vanished again. Entire conversations appeared in my journal despite never occurring. Sometimes I wake up with bruises. Salt water on my clothes. Sand in my boots. No memory of leaving. Then came the visitors. The first knock occurred at 1:08 a.m. 3 slow knocks. I remembered Rule 2. Do not answer. So I stayed silent. The knocking continued for nearly an hour, then stopped. The next morning I checked outside. Footprints covered the ground. Hundreds of them, leading to the lighthouse. None leading away. The second visitor spoke. A woman's voice. Soft. Crying. Begging for help. Claiming her boat had sunk. Claiming she was freezing. I nearly opened the door. Then she said my name. Not just my first name. My full name, including details nobody outside my family knew. Then she whispered. Daniel opened the door, too. The crying stopped. Something scratched across the wood, very slowly, like fingernails. When dawn arrived, deep grooves covered the entire door, as though something had tried digging its way inside. The journal explained more, or perhaps less. According to Daniel, the lighthouse wasn't built to guide ships. It was built to contain something that existed beneath the ocean, something ancient enough to be forgotten. The light wasn't a warning. It was a lock. The keepers weren't employees. They were replacements. Every generation, another caretaker disappeared. Another arrived. Another became part of the system. Then I found Daniel. At least I think it was him. The lantern room door opened by itself during a storm. Rain hammered the glass. Lightning flashed over the sea. And standing beside the lens was a man. Thin, pale, covered in seawater. His eyes looked wrong, like reflections instead of eyes. He stared directly at me, then spoke. How many stairs today? I couldn't answer. My throat closed. He smiled sadly. Too many. Then he vanished when lightning struck. Gone. No door opening. No footsteps. Nothing. That same night, I discovered my employee records, hidden in the administration database. Every document listed a different name. Not mine. Daniel Mercer. Employment start date. 23 years earlier. Photograph attached. My face. My exact face. I called headquarters immediately. The administrator answered. Before I could speak, he said, "You weren't supposed to find that yet." The line disconnected. Every attempt to call afterward failed. No signal. No connection. Nothing. The next morning, the ocean was gone. I wish that sentence sounded metaphorical. It isn't. I climbed the tower, looked outside, and saw no water. Only darkness. An endless black abyss stretching to the horizon. Ships hung suspended inside it. Frozen. Motionless. As if trapped in solid air. The lighthouse beam swept across impossible shapes moving below. Huge. Slow. Watching. Waiting. The foghorn sounded 3 times. Something looked back. After that, my memories fractured completely. Days disappeared. Entire weeks vanished. Journal entries appeared in my handwriting. Not Daniel's. Mine. I began writing rules. New rules. Rules I didn't remember creating. Rule 17. Do not trust memories involving sunlight. Rule 18. There have never been 6 months. Rule 19. You are not the replacement. You are the original. I read those words over and over, trying to understand. Then I found the final section of Daniel's journal. The pages had been glued together. Hidden. The last entry explained everything, or at least enough to terrify me. There was no Daniel. Not originally. Every keeper eventually forgot who they were. The lighthouse rewrote them. New names. New histories. New lives. The disappearing caretaker. The replacement worker. The maintenance technician. All the same person. One mind. Repeated endlessly. The thing below the ocean couldn't escape physically, so it escaped through memory. Each cycle weakened the lock. Each keeper became another copy. Another version. Another mask. I wasn't replacing Daniel. I was Daniel, or what remained of him. And somewhere beneath all those identities was someone else entirely. Someone forgotten. Someone trapped here long before the lighthouse existed. The final page contained one sentence. When the door beneath the tower opens completely, do not let yourself remember. Last night, the storage room returned. The door is open now, wider than before. The corridor below is illuminated. I can hear voices, thousands of them, all speaking with my voice, all calling my name. The journal sits beside me. A fresh page appeared an hour ago. I haven't written in it, yet the words are there, waiting. The handwriting is mine. It says, "The next keeper will find this recording. Please forgive me." I can hear knocking downstairs. 3 slow knocks. Then 3 more. The lighthouse light has stopped rotating. The ocean outside is gone again. And through the window, I can see someone climbing the cliff path. Maintenance coveralls. Flashlight. My face. He's getting closer. The strange thing is, I think he's the real one. And if that's true, then I finally understand what disappeared. It wasn't Daniel. It wasn't the previous keepers. It wasn't the visitors. It wasn't even the ocean. It was me. The real me vanished a very long time ago. The thing speaking to you now. The thing sitting inside Blackwater Lighthouse. The thing writing these rules. Might be what's left behind. And the worst part? The journal just turned to a new page. There are only 4 words written on it. Words I don't remember writing. But I know they're meant for whoever arrives next. Whoever takes this job after me. Whoever thinks the lighthouse is empty. The words say, "Don't trust the narrator." The moment I read those 4 words, every light inside the lighthouse went out. Not flickered, not dimmed, gone. Complete darkness. For several seconds, I couldn't move. The only sound was the ocean. At least, I thought it was the ocean. Then I realized waves don't breathe. Something outside was inhaling. Slow, deep, patient. The sound rolled across the cliffside like thunder. Then came a knocking again. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks. This time it wasn't coming from the front door. It was coming from beneath the floor. Directly beneath my chair. The storage room. I grabbed my flashlight. The beam sputtered to life. The journal lay open on the desk. A new sentence had appeared. "Don't go down there alone." I stared at the words. Then another line appeared beneath it. Literally appeared. Ink crawling across paper by itself. Too late. Something is already coming up. The knocking stopped. A second later, I heard footsteps. Slow footsteps. Ascending from somewhere below the lighthouse. Not from the staircase. Not from any room. From inside the walls. The sound traveled upward around me. Circling the tower. 1 floor. 2 floors. 3. Getting closer. I backed toward the lantern room door. The footsteps continued climbing, eventually reaching the level directly beneath mine. Then silence. Complete silence. A full minute passed. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. Then someone whispered through the wall. "Daniel." My blood froze. The voice sounded familiar. Not because I recognized it, because it sounded like my own voice after hearing a recording. Almost identical. Slightly wrong. "Daniel." The whisper moved, traveling around the room, coming from every direction. Open the door. The lantern room door rattled. Once. Twice. Then violently. Something slammed against it from the other side. The metal frame bent inward. Again. 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 The entire lighthouse shook. I ran. I don't remember deciding to. 1 second I stood there. The next I was sprinting down the spiral staircase. The flashlight beam bounced wildly across the walls. I passed floor after floor. Storage level. Living quarters. Generator room. Ground floor. Then stopped. The front door stood open. Wide open. Rain poured inside. I knew I'd locked it. I knew it. Yet there it was. Beyond the doorway stood a single figure. A man. Maintenance uniform. Flashlight. My face. The same one I'd seen before. He wasn't smiling this time. He looked terrified. He rushed inside and slammed the door behind him. For several seconds, we simply stared at each other. Neither speaking, neither moving. Then he said something that shattered what little certainty I still had. "How much do you remember?" I asked who he was. He looked confused, then saddened. "You really don't know anymore." The lighthouse groaned. A deep metallic sound echoed through the tower, like something enormous shifting underground. The man grabbed my arm. "We don't have much time." I pulled away immediately. Every rule, every warning, every note. One of us isn't real. He noticed my hesitation. "I know what the journal says." My stomach tightened. "You read it too?" His expression darkened. "No." He pointed toward the desk. "I wrote it." Lightning flashed outside. For a moment, I saw something standing beyond the windows. Dozens of silhouettes gathered around the lighthouse. Watching, the man continued speaking. "You think you're Daniel." Another flash. More figures appeared. Hundreds now, motionless, staring. But Daniel was only one of the names. The floor vibrated. Dust fell from the ceiling. Something beneath the lighthouse was moving. Not metaphorically, physically moving, as though an enormous body was turning in its sleep. The man led me upstairs. I followed despite every instinct screaming not to. Partly because I didn't know what else to do. Partly because I was beginning to suspect he was telling the truth. As we climbed, he explained. The first keeper arrived more than a century ago. Not to maintain a lighthouse, to maintain a prison. Something had been discovered beneath Blackwater Point. Something older than recorded history. Something that couldn't exist in normal reality. It didn't kill people. That would have been merciful. It erased them. Slowly. Carefully. First memories. Then identities. Then history itself. Eventually nobody remembered they had ever existed. The prison worked by anchoring reality around a human mind. One keeper. One memory. One identity. The problem was that no mind could withstand the pressure forever. Eventually, the keeper fractured. The lighthouse created copies. Versions. Fragments. Each believing they were the original. Each inheriting pieces of the previous life. Each becoming another layer in the prison. I stopped halfway up the stairs. A horrible realization struck me. How many copies are there? The man looked away. Thousands. I felt sick. Then who are you? His answer came immediately. The last one. We reached the lantern room. The giant lens had stopped turning. Outside, the darkness had swallowed the ocean completely. The abyss stretched endlessly beneath the cliffs. And within it, movement. Something impossibly large. I couldn't comprehend its shape. Every time I focused on part of it, the rest seemed to change. Limbs became mountains. Eyes became storms. Distances folded incorrectly. My brain refused to process what I was seeing. The man avoided looking directly at it. Don't stare. Too late. Something noticed me. I felt it instantly, like pressure inside my skull. Thousands of foreign memories crashed into my mind. Faces, voices, names, lives, entire lifetimes flashing past. Children, wars, cities, deaths, every one of them ending the same way. A lighthouse, a cliff, dark water. I collapsed. The man dragged me away from the window. My nose was bleeding. My ears too. The pressure subsided. Barely. Then I noticed something. The journal. It had followed us upstairs. Neither of us had carried it. Yet it sat on the floor beside the lantern lens. Open. Waiting. A new page filled itself. The writing wasn't mine. Wasn't Daniel's. Wasn't anyone's. The symbols looked wrong. As though language itself had become corrupted. The man turned pale. That's never happened before. The symbols rearranged, transforming into words. One sentence. The door is open. The lighthouse immediately shuddered. Not a vibration, not a tremor, a movement. The entire structure shifted sideways, as though something below had grabbed it. The floor cracked. Glass shattered. The beacon lens stopped completely. Then the abyss outside began climbing upward. Imagine darkness behaving like water. Flowing, rising, pouring up the cliffs. That's what we saw. The blackness swallowed rocks, grass, buildings, everything, heading toward us. The man grabbed the journal. For the first time, genuine fear appeared in his eyes. We failed. I asked what he meant. He looked at me, really looked at me, then said the worst thing I had ever heard. There was never supposed to be another keeper. The room fell silent. What? His voice shook. I wasn't a replacement. He pointed at himself. You were. The statement made no sense. Then memories surfaced. Not flashes, not fragments. Entire memories, buried beneath layers of false lives. I remembered arriving at Blackwater, but not 3 years ago. 97 years ago. I remembered training new keepers, writing rules, watching them disappear, watching myself disappear. Again, and again, and again. The man wasn't Daniel. I was. The journal wasn't written by someone else. I'd written every page, every version, every cycle, every warning. The realization nearly destroyed me. The lighthouse didn't create copies. It created escapes, fragments of me, attempts to survive, attempts to forget. The man stared at my face, then smiled sadly. You remember now? I did. And remembering was worse than ignorance. Because I finally understood what lived beneath Blackwater Point. It wasn't imprisoned. Not really. The lighthouse wasn't containing it. The lighthouse was containing me. Or more specifically, the thing I had become after spending nearly a century connected to it. The entity below wasn't trying to get out. It was trying to get back in. The abyss surged upward. The tower groaned. Walls split apart. And from somewhere deep below came a sound. A voice. My voice. Thousands of voices speaking together, all saying the same sentence. Come home. The journal fell open one final time. A last message appeared. The handwriting belonged to the very first keeper. The original one. The man whose name I finally remembered. My name. The sentence read, "If you ever remember everything, it's already too late." Then the lighthouse light turned back on, for the first time in decades. And something inside the darkness smiled.